particular Italian thinker, contemporary, Gattimo, and he's saying that we now live in an era of weak thought. Thought is weakened, and in modern times, and he's a theologian, a Christian, Catholic, but so who says that God is dead, God has died, and Christianity is clicking. What church used to do, mall is doing it now. Various malls which are there in all cities of the world, they are doing the same function which church used to do earlier. And that this is an era where the technical term uses weak thought, and if you Google on it, you will see lots and lots of sort of references, people, thinkers talking about it. The sort of whatever we are calling as Sanatan traditions, or the familiarity which we all have with Sanatan tradition, each of those articulations are very strong thoughts. So strong that it will change your lifestyle, it will change, it will be very sort of life involving kind of thing, and very. Whereas modern times are going in its own way. The knowledge which has legislative power. Legislative power is that knowledge which can produce something. Produce attitude, produce a manner, produce a behavior, produce a technology, produce whatever. Produce clothes, produce spectacles, or whatever kind of things. A knowledge which has legislative power is by and large Western knowledge today. Even if we have a minority of people who are talking about strong Sanatan attitude and thought, etc., they are really minority in the sense that in terms of the depth of thought which can be articulated in Sanatan tradition is not very populous in the society. So somehow the traditional knowledge has over 300 years or so, or even less than that, has lost Vidhayak Shakti, legislative power. Legislative power in the sense that being able to tell your children to behave in this way, or traditionally, whatever traditional knowledge, Vidhayak Shakti, that power to change, a knowledge which has power to change. So the traditional Indian knowledge has lost the vigor and the depth of its Vidhayak Shakti. This is not a small event. It's a global and epochal thing which has happened. Fortunately, that much of traditional knowledge still controls much of life in the country or people, and but its articulation, its reflection on it is with very small number of people, though through the force of tradition and households and sort of the knowledge perpetuates itself and is replicated, and but its foundations, the foundations of this knowledge are very few pundits, very few scholars are in a know of it, and their power to be heard is also receding drastically in our own lifetime, like 30, 40 years of meeting Pandits, etc., one can see this happening. That how receding, right in front of your eyes, the powers are receding of scholarship. And so this is a very epochal and big phenomena which has happened. And one need to address this phenomena to understand the problem and to sort of the problem which is being addressed here, to be able to reflect sufficiently on it. One needs to see this. Why has this happened? They're not easy sort of conclusions one can draw or one hears in the public space. Why this has happened like that? And anybody who gets familiar with traditional knowledge can see its potential powers in it, in every domain of knowledge, in polity, in logic, in every domain of knowledge, in Ayurveda, in making building of houses, building cities. You know, there was right at the beginning of this era of weakening of knowledge, Jaipur was conceived, all in the head of few people, and implemented in a couple of 2 decades, the entire city. And now we talk of 100 new cities. Where is the knowledge which is going to contribute to this 100 new cities? Which knowledge is going to contribute here? We will find very little of traditional knowledge which is going to contribute, because it's not there in the imagination. It is not something which is legislating what is to be done. So this there is this weakening of Indian thought and tradition, and but there are, of course, number of people who are familiar with it and who are keeping it alive, or who are committed to its potentials. And now this is happening in the face of a growing knowledge which can be traced to Greco-European origins. And our education system, whether it's these are sort of the Catholic schools or things like that, or whether they are simple municipal schools, the curriculum wise, in terms of image of knowledge being created among students, is that image of a powerful knowledge which is Greco-European. And very few experiments I hear are here and there, like this Purupamati experiment in sort of Bangalore, and which are trying to sort of see differently how the schooling would be done. But by and large, whatever legislative schemes we come up with are non-trivially banking on Greco-European knowledge. So one of the major tasks which comes up, which unfortunately Indological scholarship did not and could not have done, it was more a scholarship of obituary. This is, I'm talking about 200 or 300 years of Indology, which has come of something about something dying. Indology is about dying knowledge. It's more like museum you have of past thing, something like that. But a very significant task which comes, and it's not a small task. These kind of tasks take hundreds of years to do. They don't happen in project mode, in mission modes. One of the big tasks is to really understand what various strands of Greco-European thoughts are. What is their foundation, and where is their weakness or where is their strength, and why is it unacceptable or acceptable? What is unacceptable in it? In the knowledge which is we are familiar with, and our university education system is all out committed to propagating that knowledge. That what really are its strength, or we must understand, because that's the only way to domesticate it. In fact, the way I understand, when India got introduced this knowledge, there were many people, like if there's an earthquake, things get destroyed, the elders will send children to or young people to find out what happened, so that one can rebuild one's own houses and things like that. So probably something like that earthquake has happened in the domain of knowledge, and where we see just this 300 years have changed lifestyle, the way people bathe, the way people sleep, the way people talk to each other. All this is changed by this knowledge. So it's very ubiquitous phenomena which we have to address. And only way would be to be able to domesticate this knowledge. What does domestication means? Domestication means that I should be able to live my life my way, and in spite of this powerful knowledge which is there. So we are living in an era of attempted domestication. We are trying to domesticate this knowledge, and the problem is placed in this era where domestication of this knowledge is happening. And hopefully one major task in this era, and hopefully it will get succeed, is to be able to understand what really is the weakness of it, the strongest points of modern knowledge. We usually hear some critique of modern knowledge, which is very familiar in modern times, that okay, there is some spiritual side, there is some scientific side, maybe they're good at science but not good at spirits, maybe values are Indian but education and other things are Western. We do this mind-body kind of dichotomy, which was put in by Descartes in Europe. We try to sort of reason, domesticate Western knowledge by saying, no, we are good at something, like Vivekananda said, we are good at something, and they are good at something else. Let the two marry. That marriage for 200-300 years has not produced much productive society and much creative energy of, at least creative energy of Indian civilization has not flowered under that marriage. So one really has to, the task involved in solving the problem is very big. It's of order of 100 years of work and a couple of generations of work, and we are a cog in that kind of wheel which is going to work for 100 years. And so it's just to bring out the sense of dimension which I feel about the problem to the sort of people who are reflecting on it. Thanks.
So, sir, actually, are you thinking that fully indigenous knowledge should be created such that that can create or that can influence the life? That's not happening for the last.
Yeah, it's shrinking. It's shrinking.
Shrinking.
The people who are bearers of this knowledge, we are familiar with such people in our life, who are bearer of shastras, etc. Their life, their efficacy is shrinking. There is this is something happening. In fact.
So we don't find the second Professor Ramachandra in. And we should produce second Ramachandra in Hyderabad.
Not just it's good to think, but difficult to produce. And what is going to happen in this, the anxiety which is there, Anxiety is this, like how to produce such scholars. And but this anxiety has there is no mission, there is no plan to do it. Not even if there is a plan to do it, doesn't happen. It doesn't work this way. And but one thing which I feel very strongly is that there is a need to understand West much better than we do now. And because only that understanding, we understand West insufficiently. We understand West in its weakness. We don't understand West in its strength. There are two kind of, this even at Bangalore I had said this, there are two kind of strategies in warfare. One is that you look for the strong point of your enemy and hit. Other is to look for the weak point of enemy and hit. And like Guru Gobind Singh said, एक बाज से 1.25 लाख चिड़ियाँ लड़ाऊँ, 1.25 लाख चिड़ियों से एक बाज लड़ाऊँ. Both are mixed up in a good warist or general mixes both prudently. But in the sphere of knowledge, it is always the case that you look for the strongest point of your enemy, not the weakest point. If you have to look for strongest point of enemy, the strongest point of enemy is the knowledge claim, which has legislative power. That's the strongest one. We must understand it. So there is a lot of criticism of Western knowledge and West on very weak points. So if you tickle a bull feels good. It doesn't feel bad. You have to catch a bull by horn is a altogether different thing. Whether that can be done, that which means that West has to be really understood in its strength. We are in this era. When that happens, there is, I think, sufficient Shastra never disappears. It has never happened. Earlier many episodes have, even Nirukt. So Yask says that all Ved part, everything has become so corrupt in his time that he's putting, giving all the meanings etc. of the Nigantus which are there for Shastra Raksha, because it's dispersed. Thousands of shakhas are there and it's all dispersed. So sense of a loss of traditional knowledge, a great knowledge, has been there many times in the past. Even Bhatrihari says that his guru, somewhere in Gufa in Dakhin, which is somewhere here only, there was one prati of Mahavashya left. Yeah. So there has been many times when there is sense that, oh, everything is lost, tradition is lost. We also have the sense today, everything is lost and is losing. But it has always been reclaimed, and we can still reclaim it. That sort of doubt I don't have, and I think most people don't have that. However, weakening of tradition is there, it can be reclaimed. The best never dies. Because it's a human, it's already been created, done, so it never can be taken away. Its currency may go down, its legislative force may go down. So I think the main, to me, I feel, is to think of weakness in what is most appreciable in West. Whatever is most appreciable about West and its knowledge. What is a weak point in there? That is the main question, main issue, which needs to be handled.
It's a good point you made about attacking the West with strength and weakness. Closest physical world, real material world analogy is it's only these Western superpowers, after they stockpile nuclear weapons, they get all jittery and talk about world peace, nuclear disarmament. Why didn't they do it first? The West is scared if the rest of the world in any other country, they regard as third world or insignificant. The moment they start their own nuclear plans, they come down with them like a ton of bricks. This is which only means that they are rattled. They're scared.
Yeah, see, West is, it can be seen in realm of knowledge also. They're always doing firefighting. Firefighting which always requires infrastructure. Infrastructure, you may require, I mean, it looks so innocent that there is some lab in Chicago where you're trying to do some fission experiment. And nobody could think that just to pursue that experiments, etc., you really needed a mass of army, navy, and that institutional support it requires.
In fact, the internet originated in US military. DOD.
No, first in CERN, and then it went to ARPA. But in CERN also.
Project was commissioned by.
Right. So that ARPA network was this. But even we don't know what is happening in CERN, in Switzerland, etc., Geneva, Higgs boson, etc. But with this, what is entailed in terms of institutional support it requires? It may require something like armed forces, or it may require massive surveillance apparatus. So in the West, we've seen 300 years, that man is institutionally defined. Is defined as institution. To put up one great person, you need infrastructure of 200, 300 or 700 or 7,000 people to work for it. Whereas India, one man is sufficient, is a complete infrastructure. If there is one Hindu, is no less than Brahma. They say, there is a joke, if there are two Hindu, only thing they can do together is to get married. And if there are three Hindus, there is no opinion in the world which is not present among them. And if there are four Hindus, something nefarious is happening. I mean, Chandal Chokudi. Because it's a natural thing. And if there are only 5 Hindus, that it makes sense. Panch Parameshwar. Rest of it is permutation combinations of these things. So this idea that there can be knowledge without infrastructure is something which is there in the West in a very insignificant way, but it's very present in Indian tradition, very significant way. That one man, out of one's own resources, sitting under some tree somewhere, can attain the best in knowledge. So these are very long-term things which sort of work in the range of hundreds of years, not really in human lifetime. It's like Karma Siddhant, where significant things happen over a couple of lifetimes, and not really immediately in my lifetime. This anxiety that things should happen in my lifetime is something was not present in the Indian tradition. That things should just happen in my own lifetime. This was not there. So there is a consolation for the Indian civilization in this. At the same time, there is a responsibility of understanding where is the weakness in the strength of West, and because that will be used. So we are passing through a time when we have to westernize and cross the hump of westernization. This is happening. This westernization is happening every nook and corner because the type of shoes people are wearing are Western. Shoes means even chappals, even anything. So type of combs which are being used for combing hair are Western. So everything is every nook and corner of it, there is some kind of legislative power, Western knowledge. The force is being felt. And this force, but there is a future of Indian civilization after this hump is crossed, and we can place ourselves somewhere or other in this scenario.
Now it is 1 hour is left, so we are inviting the reviews. Any brief views or reviews from the participants? Yeah. And
Open for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I just
Sure.
they have an informal
Yeah.
10 minutes competition.
Yeah, please come. Please come.
As long as you can hear, that should be fine.
Because we want to see.
They are shooting.
Form is not important. Shabda is important. So, Shri Guru Namaha. So, what I was, I am here purely out of respect for Shri Arvind Garu, who is my mentor. He encourages me greatly. So, once again, salutations to him for taking all the interest and encouraging me to be here together. So, what I'll try to present in the next 10 minutes is how do we unify a society that is divided. So I want to see if we can come up with some broad strategy rather than like 10 different or 15 different ideas. So maybe if we can classify them into, or if we can bring it upwards into 3 different classifications, how do we do it? That's one effort we can make. And in that concept of unifying, what is the scriptural approach that we should take? So in the society, if we see, if I go to my hometown, people do not have an idea of what is that they have to pursue in Hinduism. So one issue is that they don't know what is the Pramana Grantha. So somebody comes and says something, they don't know where to refer to when they have a question. When they have a doubt, they are dependent on either the TV or some second-class information that somebody is providing out of the street. So first, from my point of view, I subscribe to the idea of that Bhagavad Gita is the final Pramana Grantha. In India, at least in India, people who are claiming themselves to be Hindus, they'll have to at least come forward and say that at least on the textual side, that is my final Pramana Grantha. Unless they say that, it is very difficult to unify the people on one plane. That is because that people might come back and say that I have been taught about something, because of my own tradition or my own family missing and things like that. But unless we try to relate that to something so common as Bhagavad Gita, so prevalent in the sense like so penetrated in Indian society as Bhagavad Gita, we won't be able to bring him into the camp. As long as we are not bringing him into the camp, he is susceptible. The reason why I bring it up is that, let us say I have a problem. So I have a problem, a real problem. Let us say somebody is sick or somebody is not having money, or various kind of problems, right? One is the problem of liberation, another is a social problem. There are only 2 things to do. So on that context, we'll have to kind of bring them to some text like Bhagavad Gita, where it says that first you evaluate your position. To evaluate your position, whether you want to become, whether you are interested to investigate, whether there is some truth or God or hell or heaven, whatever it is, that's one area. The second thing is that whether you want to be a normal person where you are identified with that you are somebody, you have some desires, you have to fulfill those desires, etc. So rather than giving them solutions of some short-term solutions that you do this, you have this problem, you do that, you have this problem, which normally which we come across in most of the either TV channels or the magazines or the, we have like probably like 10 different, 100 different magazines in Andhra Pradesh itself, in English and Telugu. So none of these people come forward with one idea saying that we got one Godhead. Although we have got so many things to talk about, so many different manifestations of the same one Godhead, unless somebody comes forward with that kind of an idea of trying to unify all these divided people, saying that what you are finally addressing is the same thing. So that idea has to, somebody has to come forward and take the courage and give people that empowerment, that courage, saying that you are all, finally subscribing to the same idea that there is one God. Unless that is done, these people are always susceptible to these people who are doing the convergence. And I can bring you an example. Somebody has a problem and he goes and does something which has been subscribed in some place which is probably, maybe it will not, maybe it will not work. But rather than that, if he is brought forward into the fold of Bhagavad Gita and saying that Karmanyevadhikaraste, or you are basically, you are responsible for your actions. What Krishna says is you are responsible for your actions. I am only delivering your kamaphala. So that kind of, and he says that you do it with love, you do it with farmi, mayarpita manobuddhi, etc. And he says that I am going to take care of you. That kind of confidence we have to give to the people. That's my understanding of it. Rather than saying that you go to this temple or you go to that temple or you do this, you do that. All that is fine, but you always should come back with a final summary statement saying that this is all going to be, you are coming back to, one Godhead. So, in my opinion, that is greatly missing in our society. So, that when that is brought forward, I think there will be some unity. So, first thing is that scripturally, people have to come back and say, in spite of all your preferences of what you want to pursue in religion and spirituality, at least somebody has to come forward and say that this is our Pramana Grantha, this is the final answer, where you have to find a solution.
Sir, if I may explain, can I take a minute?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I'm actually done.
Okay.
So what I wanted to say is that you cannot think about unity if you do not have a unifying idea. What is a unifying idea? That's why I was asking yesterday as well as today. How do I go to masses or how do I go to people when they are getting confused about what to do when they have a problem?
No, your point is absolutely valid. Everybody is on the same page as well. But how do we implement it? We are reiterating the same thing over and over again.
May I answer, please? So, to my knowledge, what I feel is, we cannot go to an ordinary man with saying that Bhagavad Gita is the only Brahmana Grantha, etc. because he is not bothered. That is why we have got the concept of Adhikari Veda. We have got people at so many levels and we have got teaching at so many levels. So for that man, you have to teach him at whatever level he wants. So, of course, Bhagavad Gita, we have to tell them to all thinking people. But to an ordinary villager, if possible, we can tell. But in the beginning itself, we want to tell him, and then if we want to say that there is only one God and all, he will not understand. His needs are so many, his needs are totally different. And then, say because of that only we are calling this Adhikari Veda and similarly teaching Veda also.
Just to add to what you said about there has to be one unifying God, all that. I mean, the moment you take that approach, Hinduism won't be any different from Abrahamic religions.
I mean, you might say that, but the problem is that if you're not doing that, you're basically making people susceptible to people who come back and say that you are divided because you have so many things in your listing. So you have to somehow settle that. I'm not saying that you go and teach Bhagavad Gita to masses.
Exactly. So I will put a counter question for you. Rather, I'll ask you to investigate how come for last 3,000, 5,000 years,
Right.
how did we survive?
Yeah.
How did we survive?
Right.
You start investigating that.
I mean, if you think we have survived, then there is no issue about fighting out a battle and things like that. The whole issue is because, for instance, my sampling is always people around me. My sampling is always people around me and what I read and my family and my village and my society and my office and things like that. So when I touch people, yeah, I mean, my general understanding is that Christianity and Islam, they don't have the issue of broken thought.
No, I'm sorry to cross you. Let me give you, there are 7 castes among Muslims, minimum 7 castes, and the Catholics, Protestants, Seventh-day Adventists, Godari, Ganga, there are so many everywhere there is. Let me answer your question. There are so many denominations, leave it. See, Kantamandala of Rigveda says, Ekasat Vipra Bahudha Varanti, Indraha, Varnaha, etc., etc. Then what happens? Suppose your question will be one and only one. What happens? Suppose somebody wants help. Arogyam Bhaskaradichhet.
Yeah.
Dhanamichet Vadashanat. Okay? Jnanam Maheshwaradichet. Mokshamicchet Janardana. Shankaracharya may say at the end all these things are simply not eternal or not permanent. That's a different question. That we won't teach right now. Okay? But different gods, suppose Lakshmi Devi is there. She actually sanctions some this thing, money and wealth, etc., etc. Like that Saraswati Devi. If you worship Saraswati Devi, she is the goddess of deity of her Vidya, etc. Like that we have different purposes, different things to get from different gods, but all of them at the end, Ekam Satya Praha. We never teach them about Brahman or anything related to Ekam. We teach him first Shivalaya, you go, Vishnuvalaya, you go, you are getting to provided that is subject to your karma again. Because there is Chitradhikar Nyaya is there in Purami Mamsa. Chitraya Geta Pashukana. So somebody performed the Vijna. Immediately he did not get animals. The question is that why? So what happens is immediately it is not said immediately he will get. He will get it as and when the karma phala will be there. See, even the Jata Chakra, see, I have studied 6,000 horoscopes minimum. Most of them are common people without expecting a single by I have been doing my bit of thing since 1977. Take it for granted. Punyam Vapyatha Papa Rupam Apivaha Karmarchitam Pratbhave. This is from Uttarakarambadam of Kalidasa. What is an horoscope? Whatever karma you committed during earlier births, that is shown in the form of planetary lineup in your horoscope. So Uchagraha, Nichagraha, Shatrutvam, this thing, that thing, Shastradhikari, Shasthashtama, all the things, Kujidosha, etc., all the things will come. Now we have to tell him, according to your karma, everything will happen. But hereafter, the question was that, why, when Vasishtha fixed the Muhurta, why Sita was in Landa? Answer is this. Whoever is born in Karnataka Lagna would have any one of the following things. Either, a separation with husband or wife, spouse, whoever it may be. Sri Rama's. Shankaracharya is Karnataka Lagna, but his 10th Adhipati is in Ucha. So he got moksha, so that we won't discuss. Okay? Next. 2 prime ministers, one lost his wife because of Karnataka Lagna. Another prime minister lost her husband because of Karnataka Lagna. You can't escape. Got it? So according to karma, everything happens, but you have to pray. First of all, Chitta Shuddhi. Chitta Shuddhi, you know Graha Japa in Jyotish Shastra? What for Graha Japa? It is for Shanti, not for elimination. Nothing. Avashyaman Bhaktoyam Pratangama Subhachmo. Na Bhaktan Shriyate Karma. Forget about it. Then what? He may be suffering from 103 centigrade fever, but he will move just like. If you do that, Japa, Graha Japa, then Tarpana, then Homa, then Shanti Bhojana, etc., whatever they are. Okay? Like that it goes.
I'm not disagreeing or denigrating or
One minute.
Different purposes are there.
Sir, here, in a short way, I try to answer you.
how do you unite? That's the answer.
No, that's the, I am straight away answering.
One statement,
Please,
one statement I'll make and I'll close it.
No,
from my side.
please.
Only on that.
I am directly coming to you. You are asking why so many gods? There should be only one.
No, I never said. I
No,
also-
unity.
I said, even if you say that you go to all these alayas, you do everything, why are they not able to impress saying that? So, for instance, a text like Bhagavad Gita, you tell me an answer, where somebody can tell me an answer. In Gita, they say that all the gods that you are praying, I am delivering them. Who will interpret that sloka for me?
No. Just whatever you are
Okay.
saying.
So, and he says, people say that.
Please. What I understand your point is so many gods are there. They are getting confused. There should be unity. Okay.
Exactly.
I am coming there.
At least
Actually, I am coming there if you are prepared to listen. Okay. Because you should pay attention to understand, to conceive whatever we are imparting. All of us are trying to understand you. So it is also on your part to understand what we are going to say. Here, so first thing is, actually as for Advaita also, or Shankaracharya, what they say, so many gods, ultimately, just wait till the conclusion, till I put full stop. Here what you are, a participant in the seminar. What you are in your house, you may be a son, you may be a husband, you may be a classmate, you may be something, but ultimately in your that role, nominal role, what you write your name, but you are not that, but here you are something, there you are something, there you are something, there you are something. Similarly, the power, that is whatever we say Brahma or Vishnu, whatever you say, it is only one. Here electricity is only one. There is a light, there is a light, there is a light, there is a light. Here the thing you are questioning how to answer. This is the way one has to answer. Though there are so many lights, you can't say that one light one is enough. You switch off all the lights. One light is enough for me. I read my paper, and when other is reading the paper, let one light be there. So this is not the answer. So the power, whether you switch it off also, power is there. That is Shabda Brahma, they say. Even if you don't give connection, you can't say that power is not there. So therefore, unity is always there. One sun, so many thousands of rays. This way, when you, Adhikari Bheda sir told, for intellectuals you teach in this way. For common people you teach, you showing the example of sun or light or rice. You are not distributing single rice. There are many ways. Only the thing is, one has to conceive the idea, understand it, and positive approach to explain it. There ends everything.
Thank you very much. Now we'll
Gentlemen, in 2 minutes, you have some points.
on this issue, other issues.
Not on this issue.
So this issue we are closing, and I request to concentrate on the questions rather than answers.
Yeah, he is Mr. Vishwam from Anantapur. He has built a temple there, and he has also built one. Please
Yeah, welcome, sir.
No problem, sir. Sir, my pranams to all the people here in hall. I congratulate Mr. Aravind Rao for having convened such a beautiful meeting, inviting all the luminaries here. It's really great of him. It was a inner desire that has been a burning desire in him, which has resulted in this meeting. He was always thinking that nobody is studying Sanskrit, nobody is studying Shastras, nobody is paying to a concentration towards our culture and all these things. These things have resulted in this meeting. I'm very happy that I am associated today with you all people here. And coming back to the crux of the problem, our problem is that we are not able to retain our culture. We are not able to have the arrested conversions and other things. Recently, I had been to Hindupur in connection with a temple activity and a Mutts activity. One of our friends came and asked me, "Sir, Anna, there are so many handouts coming in Christianity, explaining their greatness of the religion and other things. Why not we simplify Bhagavad Gita? Why not we simplify our culture and then put some pamphlets and handouts so that layman can easily understand and do this?" My humble request to so many Vedic scholars, wherever I have been meeting all people, is that prepare small handouts. And meetings are not, there is no doubt for meetings. We have got so many Kumbh Melas, so many what is that, 12 years once happens, Godavari Pushkaras, and then there are so many local functions are happening, there are so many meetings in the temples are happening. Let us prepare small handouts and give in small, very simple language, the essence, what we want to communicate to the people, and that gets spread. First aspect that has to be taken care of. We'll prepare the printout with lakhs of these things. Money is not a problem. We can generate money, we can, there are so many donors. So try to share the knowledge and try to impart the knowledge to the people locally. We'll be strengthening our people. First thing. Second thing is, prepare small booklets with small shlokas, with small arthas, small meanings about that. Then give the importance and then distribute it from 5th class and onwards to 10th class in schools. That is possible and everybody is doing it. And as a motivation, once in a month or once in 2 months, go and tell them, I am going to hold one test on this as a quiz or something like that. If you are going to answer this, we will give you some prizes. That is a motivational this one, and this book reaches the parents and they will also be able to see which is good, which is bad, and they will be able to know what is Hinduism. So this is the second thing. The third thing is, our problem is the elite and the rural as well. Because now there are so many conversions and changes of opinions in the elite people, as Mr. Pawan was telling, they are all there to give us the support about the in the social media, they are able to go and publicize it, that is good. About the rural areas, the core Hindu content is in Bhajana Brundas. The core content is in Bhajana Brundas. They are all low strata people, and still they are doing these bhajanas, and they have a lot of faith in us. And try to revive them, give them support, give them this. There are Harikatakas. You try to support them. There are so many sannyasis. There are so many brahmacharis who are there. Try to support them. And in each mandal or a cluster of villages, there are some temples which are not taken care of. Try to revive those temples and make it a cultural center where we will be able to transfer our knowledge and immunity, so that we will be able to communicate with the people. That has to be done. That is the rural area. We have to take care of this, because rural area is the most forlorn area. That is our base, and that our base is getting eroded. Where many of the people are getting converted into Christianity and other religions. So try to do that. In fact, in Anantapur we are running a hostel with about 40 people who are from rural area, children. They are orphans. We are trying to retain them. We are trying to increase this to 100 so that these people do not go away from Hinduism. I am very sorry to say, 5 people have left our hostel, saying that one RDT, as we have been telling, the non-governmental organization in Anantapur, they have lured the people with funds, monies, and 5 of them have left us. And we are now come down to 35 to 30. Our aim is to increase this to 100 people and try to make so many centers like this. This is what we are trying to do. And then we have been talking about Hinduism, Hindu world. I was telling Mr. Arvind, there is a sloka marga. No, I am telling you one definition or one generation. For Jagat you say, Jayate Gachete iti Jagat. Isn't it? So similarly, try to coin something, Hindu Dushayati iti Hindu. Try to do something like that, some name, and give it some authenticity and start explaining it to people so that people accept the word. Don't say that is not in our scriptures. It is not there in our set. Okay, forget about all those things. Try to do some name, try to give something, try to give a new meaning to this, new folk angle to this Hinduism, and say that this is authentic. And we are not new to Adhika Pathas in any of these things. There are so many Adhika Pathas in our there are so many Adhika Pathas in our Ramayanam, in our Bharatam, and so many places. Something you do, sir, something you do, and try to say why should we say in our congregation that it is a new word, it has not been there, it is not been in our scriptures, we are tried, this has come from Sindhu. Why Sindhu? Forget about Sindhu. It is Hindu, Hindum Dusha, it is Hindu. That's all. We are not against, we are against Hindu. Himsa Dusha is Hindu. That Himsa, we are against Himsa. We are Ahimsa lovers. Say that. And try to give some originality to our Hinduism word. Don't create it. Already those fellows have created some bad name to our Hinduism, but don't do that. Give us a new word, coin something, and then give a new force to our Hinduism. That's what I wanted to tell you, sir. So, You can write a Purana, do something. Because saying about to tell a truth, there is something there. People say Satyam Bruyat, Priyam Bruyat, Abruyat, Satyam Apriyam. No, sir, Apriyam Satyam Apriyam Bruyat. Priyam Namrutam Bruyat, Yesha Dhamma Sanatana. We are not telling anything lie, we are telling for the sake of this one. So tell something good about Hinduism and tell people that we are not doing it. Yes, Lajja will go. Yes. Why?
Only licensed actually. So your question of those who are asking.
And finally,
why you should convince and all. Just tell that other person Islam is a legal religion. Huh? No, that's all. That's what they do. They call it. You do the same thing.
and lastly, one more small word I would like to add. Thanks to Mr. Professor Jha, who was proposing to create one common code. Don't leave it to the Pithadipatis or Mathadipatis or somebody. They will not do it. Please try to postulate one thing, try to codify it, then try to get their acceptance. Try to, Swamiji, we have done like this, Swami, we have done like this for the correct this one. Because Dharma is not a true old Dharma. There is Atma Dharma, there is Sanatana Dharma, there is Kala Dharma, there is Vritti Dharma, there is Ashrama Dharma, there is Varna Dharma. There are so many dharmas. So let us have some 2014 Dharma. Samajika Dharma, Prastuta Dharma, Nyaya Dharma, something like that. Postulate some of the things, get the acceptance of the people, and then project to the people, common people, that there is some common code, and try to do that. Because this has been created here. Let this Vardhatam, Vardhatam and Abhivardhatam. I wish all prosperity to this congregation, and I wish many more scholars come and give the scholastic additions to this, and then make this a grand success, and see that Hinduism continues forever. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the opportunity.
I'll support this thing by quoting from Shankaracharya, that is, Yasmin Deshe Kale Nimittecha Yaha Dharma Iti Vyavakriyate Sayeva Deshantere Kalanterecha Adharma Iti Vyavakriyate, something like that. My own words I said, but something like that it is there in Shankara Bhashyam of Brahma Sutra. So, Dharma is not something which is totally static. There are two portions of Dharma, which is Samanya Dharma, which is another thing is Vishesha Dharma. One Dharma is like Satyamvada, Dharmamchara, that doesn't say, it doesn't change. But there are other things, the peripheral aspects of Dharma, they do undergo change. So like that, we have a new Dharma code, like Professor Jha was saying in the morning.
Recently, last 3 years back, I came across one book written by Professor Ramachandran, Kautilya Sutra. Then I went through the book. Then I said, sir, who has written this? I myself. Then I, sir, actually, why can't my Gotra is Kautilya? Then I wrote other. See, it's very much modern Dharma Shastra. So he discusses about Aspurshyata there. He discusses about the Vritti Dharmas, and around 400 slokas. And very beautifully he has written.
Discussed among various
Definitely.
and then if it is approved, then it will be good.
And I don't have any doubt about
Somebody has to hold this responsibility.
in Telugu also it is available. I think Telugu English translation. Now it's time to wind up.
Sir, I just want to add one more point, sir. Just give me 1 minute. Something which we have actually probably not spoken so far. For RSS, they have pracharaks and everything all over India, correct? There is a network of people. For anything to be done, there is a network of people required. Everybody agrees on that. You know, it's called balam, some kind of balam. We haven't looked into the priestly community which we have all over India, correct? We already have a network of temples. Maybe they are not connected. So if we have a coursework for all the temple priests, what they have, because back in Lagos, when I go to Swaminarayan temple, they are doing a fantastic job, at least in terms of grooming people and talking to people, the young Hindus. They have a booklet when they come, they approach you, because here we have already go. In our Hindu temple, nobody comes and says even hello. They're like, okay, you came here, what the heck. But in Swaminarayan temple, there are people who come close to you, they smile, elderly people, they say, what's your name, what do you do? They spend a minute's time, then they internally bring a small booklet about Swaminarayan. They tell us what they speak, and they say, you come regularly, we have so and so classes. So even a fellow who is not even interested, 1%, out of 100 people, 10 people are inclined to come back, definitely. Correct? So this is the kind of guru we need to have, we need to tell the priests in all the temples. So again, it's a coursework for all the priests. If there is a coursework which we can prepare, saying this is what you should talk, because they don't even want to talk. They have unnecessary gossip, most of them. A real priest, they won't even talk, they'll always be chanting and doing japa. Fantastic. But I mean, doing japa in the home is good, but when you are a priest in a temple, they need to be groomed and coached on what they have to talk to the general public. Because we already have a huge network of priests all over India. I mean, this is something which people haven't thought for so long. But Swaminarayan people, they are doing it. Swaminarayan people, anybody, doesn't matter, you are a black American or a white American or an Indian American, it doesn't matter, or an Arabic American, they will come talk to you, they will smile, they say, this is what it is, this is the temple servants of Allah. So you are immediately into their arms, you say, the moment they put a hand on you, they say, okay, somebody elderly person is talking to me. That 1-2 minute connection is very critical, and I think we are missing it in our temples here. So this is something which I thought broadly, if we have a 4-page booklet or a 16-page booklet, don't write grandas. We need only, everything has to be like a chocolate, tuck, put it in the mouth. So if we have a small, no seriously, that is only there. If we have bullet points with some explanations, again Sanskrit references required. There is no pure English necessary here, we need references for everything. If you say ABCD, there is a reference required, the Sanskrit sloka. Give it to the priest. He doesn't understand that probably, but if he gets the gist of it, he can talk to the people, slowly explain it. That's what I thought. So we need a course for given for priests to explain to ordinary people. Thank you.
Just to add to it, TTD Tirupati, they are doing a lot of official courses in Shweta with the planning. There is a planning institute called Shweta in Tirupati. They are calling all these priests to the batches, and continually they are conducting these programs for all these priests. And who are interested in priesthood, they are actually inviting. And scholars are being invited to give lectures.
What about the existing priests? Are they
No,
also
all
invited?
the people, who are interested, including Dalit priests are doing.
No, not interested. Everybody has to go through the, like an IT company, every 2 years there is an exam, what you have learned newly. The priest cannot sit idly and increase his tummy. He has to go read something, explain it to people. He has to pass an exam.
This has to be taken up with the endowments department.
No, that's what I'm saying. We have to propose such kind of an idea where he has to learn something, pass an exam every 2 years.
You have to make it compulsory to all the
No, because we already have the network. That's what I thought.
Nobody can do it.
Sir, you understand agree what I'm saying?
Mr. Pawar, this is one of the issues I was talking about. In one temple, there
No,
was
this is possible because we have the network. You don't have to pay somebody.
There's so much
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for all the participants have participated. Our spirits, their learnings, and their feelings and their concerns. I really look forward to much more in action. Now this is time to sum up the entire session. So I request Arvind, because this is the time to create some strategies, and this is the time to come up some action plans. This is the time to really look forward to some results. So as Professor Navjyoti attested, that every century has felt some loss of knowledge and some loss of their power. No, we are feeling. No, this is the time to really we are all feeling, and we expressed our concerns about the loss we are really experiencing. Now, I request Dr. Arvind Rao to see some because you have noted the last 2 days you planned this entire seminar, and you have noted a lot of things out of the deliberations. And if you sum up the ideas. I think before that, shall I give my comment on at the end or now? Yeah. So this is also one of the, because I participated since yesterday morning till now. So I'm one of the participants who participated fully when you are here. And at the same time, I tried to give my attention to the speakers. what really they are telling. And one is, two issues majorly have been deliberated here. One is clearing the environment, where we are living. Sometimes we are living, the living condition may not be good. So how to clear the environment, that was the concern. So many people discussed about conversion, many people discussed about the receptibility of the people. Many people, as he said, who will receive it? And people are not ready to receive it. The receptibility of the ideas. And this is one part. Because I cannot perform yajna or homa or my sandhyavanam in Arab countries. You don't have environment there. Who knows? After centuries, India becomes Arab. Who knows? That's a fear. I don't know. It may never happen, but still we have some fear. So we need to address such issues. But at the same time, those are very short-term goals. We cannot survive there. The Hinduism, or the entire our knowledge system has survived till today, not because of its superficial activities, because of its strength, core strength, inner strength. That is pointed out by Professor Naujyoti very nicely. Now we are in hump. Okay? After crossing this hump, we will get something. So nice road. But the point is, our knowledge system, our ancient knowledge system is not creating anything, or is not translated into the results. It has lost its legislative power. Vidhayak Shakti is lost. So how to reclaim or recreate the Vidhayak Shakti? That's another issue. So recreation of knowledge and preservation of our knowledge tradition is another issue we discussed in these 2 days. So with this, I think what we discussed, what we learned, I quoted, and other issues
So thank you, Sri Vakkadeji. For those who are curious, they can note down the shloka, because just now I telephoned to one Swamiji, and then the Swamiji gave the shloka. This I heard in some meetings. Himalayam samarabhya yavad Indu sarovaram. Himalayam samarabhya yavad Indu sarovaram. Tam devanirmitam desham. Hindusthanam prajakshate. I do not know whether it is, whether the derivation is etymologically. I do not know. Himalayam samarabhya yavad Hindu sarovaram tam devanirmitam desham Hindusthanam prajakshate. Anyway, this is something which has been written by our friends. Like my friend Vishwam said. Anyway, it serves the purpose. So, thank you, Vakkadeji. I will just recapitulate some of the points which emerged since yesterday. I start with Sri V.N. Jha. Prior to that, I start with myself, because I made a presentation mostly from the point of view of the security of the country, because my long service in police, it has given me the samskara or vasana to look at everything from the point of view of security. So I spoke only from the point of view of security, how the country's demography is likely to break the country also maybe at some point in future, and then how. And I also quoted very briefly. I outlined the formula given, not exactly formula, the type of attacks, the three-pronged attack which is going on, on Indian culture, that is described by Rajiv Malhotra. That is the academics, the academicians, the scholars, studying our culture and then interpreting it in their own manner. And then whatever writings are there by these scholars, they are being taken up by the field level evangelists. And then the governments, they are indirectly funding through various NGOs. So this is the three-pronged strategy. And on all those 3 fronts, we are very weak. Because number one, our scholars, they are one group of scholars, they do not know Sanskrit. They are the Sanskrit scholars. They do not know social change, and they do not know the lingo and the terminology of the foreign and the Western scholars. And then we do not have that evangelical structure at all. And then the politicians, they are totally at the victims of vote bank politics. So this is the main point which I made. And then Professor V.N. Jha, he made a couple of points. very important points. He started with the idea with the idea of Indian policy on education. We should have a solid policy for education. With that point he started. And then he made another point that we should have a sort of multidisciplinary institute for Indian culture. And in between he explained about how, our scholars, a lot of intellectual exertion is required on the part of our scholars, and how, on various points, a lot of Indian texts, they have been appropriated by the Western scholars and totally not acknowledged. And he gave the examples of Noam Chomsky and some others. And so these are the points which he made. Then later, Sri Hanuman Chaudhary, he was actually admired by not many youngsters, and then he made some points in a very, very powerful way. He referred to, he gave the examples of Spain, how Spain was converted to Islam, and it was there under Islam for about 500 years, and then it got reconverted to Christianity and things like that. And he gave the example of JNU, how JNU came into existence. And then he talked about certain books like Hindu-Christian Encounters, and then such things he said. And his important point was about, this administration of temples. It has to come away from the government, and it has to come under the Hindu bodies. Of course, on this point, it is again a very, very debatable issue, because who are the Hindu bodies and what should be the administrative structure for those temples, if at all those temples are taken away from the government. So that again is a very big question. So that was, of course, not discussed yesterday. And so these are the points which he made. Then Chittaranjan Naik, his presentation was about, in fact he changed my perception, my whole perspective about, Nyaya Shastra. Till then I was not having a very great opinion about Nyaya Shastra. He totally changed my perspective. So he explained as to how that is the basic, structure on which the Siddhanta can stand, and then this Pramana Shastra. So he explained as to how, this logic is very much needed to support the doctrine. Then there are some other points like support to Sanskrit scholars. Okay, how many of that? Somebody also made the point: how many of us know French or German? Because most of our books are translated into French and German languages also. We are only acquainted with English, and that too very few people are acquainted with English. Very few Sanskrit scholars, I mean. And how many of us we know French, Latin or German, etc. So that was one thing. Then dissemination of information on various websites to Sanskrit scholars, that was done by Mr. Pawan Nethi. Then Chittaranjan Naik, he also made certain points about religious, these traditional scholars, how they are cocooned and then how they are removed from the religious needs of the people. This was again a very important thing. We are basically unaware of the religious needs of the people. And then we are still talking, this another point which he made was, we are still talking about the ancient Purvapaksha. That is, whenever there are Shastra Sabhas, we are still talking about Sankhyas and then Bauddhas and the Jaina and the condemnation of the Jaina, etc. We are not taking into consideration the present day Purvapaksha. So that is the most, that's a very, very important point. And then he also... Yes. And then he also talked about the pitfall of saying that Hinduism is a way of life. So whenever we are used to listen to this line, Hinduism is a way of life, but there are great pitfalls in accepting that. Then Sandeep Balakrishna, he made a very powerful presentation about what an organization has been doing. India Facts, what it has been doing to bring about, awareness among particularly the intellectuals. Their target group are intellectuals. So he has, they have got almost every day, or at least every 2 days, there is one paper which is coming to us. I request all of you to look into that, India Facts. Every evening almost. Okay. Then he also mentioned how some of the Western, how some of these NGOs like World Vision and some other NGOs, which I also did not know because I am also getting mails from this World Vision. There are so many NGOs like that which are sending so many mails and then they are doing a lot of work, and most of us are unaware of their background. Then Sri Varkedi, he gave a very detailed picture of the history of Indology, and then his main emphasis was to explain the entire history of Indology. And then later, Sri Korad Subramaniam, he gave certain exactly what are the points. I have noted the points made by you. Then Professor Shashireka, she told about, she gave some references from Kautilya, what type of people are vulnerable and what type of people can be won over by the enemy. So she gave an insight about what Kautilya said about such people and how we have to be careful about keeping such people in our fold. Then there is a continuation by Sri Chittaranjan Naik. And Chittaranjan Naik again, he talked about the Western writers who are totally ignoring the Indian tradition. And he particularly gave the example of Ferdinand Saussure, or how to pronounce that name? Saussure or something. Saussure, Ferdinand Saussure, not so sure. So he wrote a lot. He and Husserl and others, they wrote a lot on phenomenalism, and they almost reproduced what is there in our own books. And this gentleman, he was also a lecturer in Sanskrit, added to that. And then that definitely proves that this man definitely copied from our own book and then passed it off as his own book. So these are the points which I feel, these are the things on which we have to probe further. We have to probe further, and then we have to in fact, we have to identify various subjects for further research. This can be one point for further research. How? Yeah, they are not scholars exactly. So some hard work on our part is also required. We have to identify subjects on which further research is required, and then we have to tell our friends in the universities. Then he also pointed out that Indian tradition is a gold mine to look for ideas, and these people are coming and digging our gold mine and picking up, and then they are projecting as their own ideas. Then today, of course, it started with Sri Sripad Subramanian Garu. So he has given a positive note that Hinduism faced similar attacks right from the time of Buddhism, and how Buddhists had earlier attacked our culture on the ground of Nyaya, and how again we fought back on the ground of Nyaya only. And then Indian Nyaya tradition, they fought back, and then we reclaimed. So he also made a very powerful statement that we are like soldiers without weapons. So, and our weapons are our Shastras. So Vada Pravadatam Asmi. So that is Vada Pravadatam Chaham Asmi. So that is the line from Gita also. So then this was continued by another very powerful presentation by Sri Alvar Swami. Alvar Swami, he has talked about the Indian culture in the past, how exactly, what were all the Vidyasthanani in ancient times. He started with Chaturdasha Vidyasthanani, and then he talked about the Ashtadasha Vidyasthanani, and then again he referred to Kadambari and a long list of Vidyas. And then another Chandogya, reference to Chandogya. I was also reminded of Narada in Sabha Parva, when Narada enters Krishna's, this Dharmaraja's court in that Sabha Parva. Then again there is a description of Narada about saying how many Shastras the chap was an expert. He was also an expert in physical fighting and Malla Yuddham and things like that. So anyway, he was a warrior also, he was a fighter Swami. So this we had an idea of about how exactly our ancient education produced rounded personalities. It was a multidimensional, and it was not at all a unidimensional personality, unidimensional study. And then the present day unidimensional studies, they are actually producing, say, disillusioned, depressed people who are affected with melancholy. And so that is the point which he made. And then he pointed out the problems of scholars, the Sanskrit scholars, regarding basically the basic problem about livelihood. And then he also pointed out how some dedicated teams of scholars have to address these problems. Then again, Sri V.N. Shah had intervened, and then he made a very useful point which we just discussed now, that is of taking some decision on behalf of the Hindu community, and then who can give some sort of directions, if not fatwas. So some sort of... Yes, exactly, some Swamijis. Yes. We have to have some, develop some Swamijis. Then he also explained, he explained how... Yes. Then again we had a presentation by Sri Penna Madhusudan. He made some powerful remarks that we have diversity but no division. So that is a beautiful description. And our Shastras, they see unity, we don't see diversity. And Shastra is of course something which is relevant for all. Then he said, we have to, again the same point which was made by Sri Chittaranjan Naik yesterday, that we have to compare and contrast the Indian writer and also the Western writers to see how many ideas have been borrowed, and it has to be serious research, and then it has to be properly investigated. Then he also referred in detail to the points which are made by Mr. Malhotra in this Breaking India. He talked about the U-turn theory and all that. Then again there were some more points. This point, who made this point? Asampradaya with Murkhavad Upeshaniyaha. You made that point. Yeah, he made a very powerful statement saying that Asampradaya with Sarvashastra Vidapi, something like that. Sarvashastra Vidapi Murkhavad Upeshaniyaha or something like that. So that's what he said. Then Sri Krishna, he also made a reference about Lord Sri Krishna. Then Krishna Kadiri, he has made a very powerful, he is also a fighter, he is a very captain, the caption itself talked about Dharma Yuddha. And he reminded us that this Dharma Yuddha is not something which is new, it has always been there, it is a continuous thing. And then he talked about this intellectual fortification, economic fortification, etc. And then this intellectual response is needed and not an emotional response. And then he gave this model of Mahabharata as to how, Dharma Pratisthapana has to be done at various levels. Then Mr. Pawan, a young man from Dallas, he made a presentation that what we are missing is actually advertising. And then he gave some examples of various issues on which we can advertise, and then we can project our good work. And then he made some very useful suggestions that we have to make some small, videos, some 3-minute to 2-minute videos on some important issues, so that we can capture the attention of the young people today. Then on ordinary issues, people are not very much bothered about the philosophical niceties and all nuances of philosophy. They are more bothered about very small issues like somebody wearing a bindi, somebody wearing a Mangal Sutra, and things like that. So all these things, such things have to be answered. So he has a point, but we have to answer bigger questions and also smaller questions. So this is one. Then later Sri Govindarajan, he made another good presentation. He talked about how this school education, how these convent schools and all these things, they are so ubiquitous, and then which are influencing us. And then he has pointed out how the US government, this was news to me, I didn't know they know about this, how the US government gave some sort of ordinance, some language, I don't know what they call for an ordinance. Some sort of order.
Government will give.
Yeah, which enables the US government to earmark huge funds for conversion. I am aware of one act, that is, during Bill Clinton's time, one act was made, that is International Freedom of Religion Act or something like that. International Freedom of Religion Act or something. Yeah, Freedom of Religion. Whereby, according to which they can impose sanctions on a country. They can impose sanctions on a country if there is some sort of even the slightest resistance for any say this evangelical activity. They can produce some sort of report on that. Some sort of atrocity literature is built up. And last time when BJP government was in power in Karnataka, the Archbishop of Karnataka had the temerity to call that state a rogue state, because at that time the BJP chief minister and the BJP government was slightly, if not stopping, they were trying to resist conversions. So they called it a rogue state. So some fellow, an archbishop staying here, he calls our own government a rogue state. So I am aware of that act, but then this thing is also something new.
Because the same act that enabled the lobby to deny Modi the visa.
Same, something. CAG or something, Committee Against Genocide, or Coalition Against Genocide, Coalition Against Genocide, you also look about that. Okay, so then Professor Navjyoti Singh, he made, after lunch, he made a very beautiful presentation. He said the problem, one important point he said was this problem cannot be politically solved, politically handled. That is a very, very realistic statement that the politicians, they are actually captives in this demographic setup. They will not be able to do anything. So he also gave an idea about this weak thought. We are living in an era of weak thought. Then again, knowledge has legislative power. That is again a very beautiful expression. Then again, he said very little traditional knowledge. One very important point is about the making of these 100 smart cities. I request our friends who are concerned about this, please note, he made a very important point about very little of traditional knowledge is going into the making of these 100 smart cities. 100 smart cities, what are all the inputs which are going into the making of these smart cities? So we have never thought of it. We have never thought of it, and it's a very, very important point. How this aspect of culture has to be built in. Say that what this input, who has to give these inputs to them. So kindly think about that. Then he also talked about the domesticate this knowledge. The problem with professors is they use some beautiful words. So this domesticate this knowledge, I understood it as coping with social change. This is a simpler thing which I always knew. So how to cope with social change. Then again he said there is a need to understand West in its strength and not in its weakness. You have to understand, we always say know the enemy. In police also we say know the enemy. So he said know the enemy, not only his weak point but also the strong point, so that you can also measure up to that. So that is the point which he made. Then again, we can always reclaim. He ended on a very, very positive note. I also felt rather happy. Otherwise, since yesterday I was feeling gloomy. So he gave me some little bit of encouragement, some sort of fillip. So he said that we can always reclaim so long as we have that strength of our inner vitality. Our inner strength is very much there, like Professor Jha said, and also Chittaranjan Nayak said, and also all our friends, this Nayayikas here, there are too many Nayayikas here. Krishna Khatri, and then Madanna Madhusudan, and Sri Suibad Subramanian, etc. They all gave hope that there is some, and also our Varkhediji. So they have all given hope that we can always reclaim our tradition. And then knowledge without infrastructure and knowledge with infrastructure. This differentiation was also made by Professor Singh. So this was also a very important point. Then again, Sri Vishwam from Anantapur, he made a point, the very, very practical points that we have to make some small handouts, just as the other people are making. And then we have to prepare some small booklets and all that. And then we have to address at two levels, the elite at one level and the rural also at one level. In fact, the Christians, they call it grassroots level propaganda and rooftop type propaganda, rooftop level propaganda, not rooftop, treetop. This grassroots level is going to villages and all that. This treetop propaganda, it targets, say, people like film actors. For example, many of our film actors, they are slowly converted to Christianity. Some of our heroes and heroines, like Charu Hassan and Karna is in Tamil Nadu. Our own some heroines are converted, and our own Mohan Babu. This chap also, he has made some totally anti-Hindu movies. So this refers to that treetop level, say, propaganda. Basically, catching hold of some celebrities and also fixing a price. If a Brahmin is converted, so much money. If among the Brahmins, if a Pujari is converted, some more extra money. If a good, say, a doctor with a reputation, if he is converted, some prize money for all these things, some prize money is there. So like that, we also have to think of these things. And then another important point he made was that the temples have to be centers of culture. So like this, all the people, they have made so many points. And then another point was about the Hindu Archaka network. The last minute during the winding session, somebody made a suggestion about the Hindu Archaka network across the country. So that was another point. There are a few more points which I have noted down. I may not be able to quickly read out all that. So by and large, this was a very, very educative experience, I should say. I became wise. I have to confess that I became wise at the end of these 2 days. And then I am very, very grateful for all the people who have come here. Some final words from Sri Venkateji. You are the president now, the presidential remarks now. Sujana asti. Prabha yavadantu.
महोदय तत्र कार्यक्रमः वर्तन्ते षोडशदिनाङ्के सुन्दरविज्ञानकेन्द्रं षड्वादने अस्ति महोदय
मुल्ल रामचन्द्रमहाशयस्य नूतनपुस्तकस्य आविष्कारः जायते तत्र
षड्वादने अस्ति
षड्वादने नूतनपुस्तकम् इत्युक्ते नाट्यशास्त्रस्य उद्घाटनं नाट्यशास्त्रम् आन्ध्रभाषायां व्याख्या आन्ध्रभाषाया व्याख्या तस्य पुस्तकस्य उद्घाटनं तत्र भविष्यति सुन्दरविज्ञानकेन्द्रं मागलिङ्गपल्लि
तत्र अस्ति
अन्यच्च
सप्तदशदिनाङ्के रमणाचार्यमहोदयस्य सन्मानं सुरभारत्याम् अस्ति
सुरभारत्या रमणाचार्यस्य सम्मानः भवन्तः एव कुर्वन्तु
तत् चर्चागोष्ठी अपि अस्ति महोदय तत्र
भवन्तः एव कुर्वन्तु ओके
तृतीयः अस्ति नवदशदिनाङ्के दशवादनतः चतुर्वादनपर्यन्तं तल्लिदण्डुलु पंडितुलु संस्कृतभाषा अवगाहन मरियु परिरक्षण सदस्सु अस्ति
तस्मिन् विषये वदन्तु
तद् नारायणगुड केशवमूल्य डिग्री कलाशालायां डिस्ट्रिक्ट्तः अपि जनाः आगमिष्यन्ति महोदय बहवः उपन्यासकाः पण्डिताः आगमिष्यन्ति तत्र तल्लिदण्डुलु भाषा पंडितुलु संस्कृतभाषा अवगाहन मरियु परिरक्षण सदस्सु बहवः जनाः संस्कृतभाषाविषये उपेक्षां कुर्वन्ति तदनन्तरं तत्र वैशिष्ट्यं किमस्ति संस्कृतभाषा प्रसारणेन हिन्दुत्वस्य रक्षणं कीदृशरूपेण भविष्यति चर्चागोष्ठ्यः भवन्ति सदः अस्ति तत्र सदस्य भवन्तः सर्वेपि संस्कृतभाषा परिरक्षणसमिति
कति जनाः तत्र
इदं परह्यः तु वयम् 11 जनाः मिलितवन्तः चिन्तितवन्तः महोदय अस्माकं चिन्तनमस्ति आहत्य 200 जनाः तत्र भवेयुः इति सोमनाथ महोदयः अस्ति महोदय सोमनाथ शर्मा डिग्री कलाशाला अध्यापकः वयं मोबलैस् कुर्वन्तः स्मः प्रयतमानः अपि स्मः महोदय यदि सक्सेस् भविष्यति भगवतः आशीर्वादं सर्वानपि एकत्रीकृत्य तत्र एकः महोदयः उक्तवान् एकदिने सम्मिलिताः सर्वानपि कुल अध्यक्षाः भवन्ति गौडकुलं भवति तस्य अध्यक्षः भवति तस्यापि दायित्वं तत्र भवेत् तथा निश्चयेन सः 10 जनान् आनयिष्यति तदा वयं प्लानिङ्ग् करिष्यामः
This was one important point I think we missed because in Karnataka we have got the tradition, we have got various caste Swamijis. Like they have got their own Swami, some other caste they have got their own Swami. In Andhra also we had this tradition, but somehow this has disappeared over a period of time. Maybe this can be revived. It has not totally disappeared. We still know that this man, he comes from this so-and-so Dasa family, this man comes from so-and-so Guru family. So this can be revived. That is one good way of protecting Hinduism in rural areas. We forgot this point. In Karnataka, Andhra we had It has so totally become weak now. It has to be identified properly and revived. Telangana, it is still there, but it has to be revived.
Shiva's temple, so Lingayats perform puja.
Very important point. This is a great point.
Karnataka, matas are not taken over by the government. Therefore, they enjoy freedom.
Yes.
They perform. They can continue. Here, government.
No, Mata cannot take over. There is a partial control by this, say what is this, endowments department, but they are not totally controlling. Only when there is a heir, the problem of appointing a heir.
Tattaka.
Say, yeah, that successor, appointment of the successor. If there is some such problem, then government is coming into picture. Otherwise, not.
चतुर्दशदिन नवंबर 2 दिनाङ्कतः 9 दिनाङ्कपर्यन्तं देहल्यां माडगु नामस्य महोदयस्य अवधानकार्यक्रमः अस्ति महोदय तत्र भवन्तः सर्वे भागं वोढुम् इच्छन्ति चेत् सम्पर्कं कर्तुं शक्नुवन्ति चत्वारः कार्यक्रमः वर्तन्ते DA अपि दीयते महोदय तत्र महोदय उक्तवान् सर्वेभ्यः अपि सूचयन्ति
Those who are interested, okay, right.
So, thank you very much. It is time to thank Dr. Arvind Rao for really creating this opportunity for all of us. Especially, I think we are Sanskrit scholars, about 10 people. In one sense, we are Kumamandukas. We have created our own very comfort zones, and we have created our own homes where we are enjoying. And now you have shown us our responsibilities, because what's happening outside our classrooms is also very important. We must know it, and now our responsibility has increased. For that, we really thank you, sir. And at the same time, I would like to make another point that if 50 people sitting in a hotel in Mumbai can design the lifestyle of 50 crore people of India, it happens. Which kind of pant should be worn by the youngsters is designed by 50 people sitting in a hotel in Mumbai, and sitting in we can design India's future. So I think this kind of Congress enterprise is not waste. We can design the pathway of Indian knowledge system. So with these two words, I also want to add one more thing. Alone in Bangalore, 1,500 crore funding is available in corporates under CSR. CSR means corporate corporate social responsibility. So that funding, either it is misused or it is taken over by somebody. The major problem is we don't know, or many NGOs are working. We are seeking government support. The government is not giving it all. We don't know how to prepare the project reports, how to prepare the proposals, the format. That is very important. Whether you work or not, that is secondary. But we have to prepare very good reports so that they will provide support for us. So under CSR, 1,500 rupees in Bangalore, contributors, who are the contributors? Contributors are our own people. They are the contributors. We are contributing and we are not getting the benefits.
What are the heads under which they provide? Because
so I know.
Rajan and I have prepared many project reports for government.
No, you don't go for government.
No.
As I know right now, one is healthcare, education. Normally they provide education, healthcare, and I listed old age home, child care,
and
traffic, human traffic problems.
I think environmental issues, hygiene issues, education if it is available.
Education is available.
Why I am saying is, if you look at it, the Catholic schools and other things, we can also, there is a school where everybody can come in. There is a government curriculum, we can take it. In addition to
but under social service, you should go to the society. You cannot expect people to come to you.
No, I will go to the society.
You should go to the society and you should define your target group, and you should also say that I am going and I am serving. So it is not that they come to you and you serve them. So in that way, if you do, definitely funding is available. So with these words, we have to utilize this service. Yeah. Oh, this is, yes, yeah. So I wanted to bring into the notice of the people who are assembled here. So once again, I thank one and all the scholars, and I also thank Arvind Rao and other team. So with these words, I declare this session, this 2-day seminar is successfully conducted. Thank you very much.
Final word of thanks to the promoters of this the whole session. That is India Packs. Behind India Packs is Sri Balakrishnan, and behind him is another gentleman called Hari Kiran. So he is the actual guy. So he is in Singapore. He couldn't come. He himself is a scholar. So there is again a problem for us because he keeps on motivating. So that is one. So Hari Kiran and another friend called Kumar Buddha from this Buddhavarapu Charitable Trust. So he is another gentleman. These two are the people who supported this whole thing. Then in fact they said, okay, we'll go ahead, whatever be the expenditure. In fact they wanted to have more people. So encouraged by this and encouraged by your participation, maybe we will have a greater or larger gathering next time. And I have to particularly thank our friends Mr. Srinivas and also Bhargav, who are here, and then who made all the physical arrangements. Though we don't have any manpower, these two chaps, they have been running around and then they made all the arrangements. And for any small lapses in hospitality, kindly excuse us. We apologize to you again. Thank you.